As I discussed in the introduction to this module, the age composition of a population can have an impact on its society and economy. This essay will consider the dynamic of a population which has a large proportion aged between 15 and 24, termed by the UN definitions as a youth bulge, and between 15 and 64, which is seen as a country's labour pool. Now, currently countries in the Middle East and North Africa fall into this category, as do many Asian countries. Now, it's important in this essay to distinguish between a youth bulge, a labour pool, and a demographic dividend. In the past 20 years, Asia's labour pool, that's those aged between 15 and 64, has increased by nearly 800 million. However, over the next 2 decades, it will likely increase by only half of that number. And we will also see shifts in where the labour pool is located. For example, 2 decades ago, China accounted for nearly half the labour pool in Asia, and India about 1/3. Currently, the Chinese labour pool is around 1 billion and India's at around 800 million. In 2 decades' time, however, China will fall to around 40% of Asia's labour pool, while India will grow to around 43%. Other countries with large increases in labour pool over the next 20 years will include Pakistan and the Philippines, which will grow by over 40%, Cambodia and Bangladesh growing by about 30%, Malaysia and Indonesia by about 25%. So, will these labour pools result in demographic dividends is a key question behind the essay title. A demographic dividend may be defined as the tendency for economic growth to be spurred by rapid growth of the working age share of the population. As much as 1/3 of the considerable economic growth in East Asia between 1965 and 1990, for example, may be accounted for by changes in age structure associated with the region's rapid demographic transition. We can explore this in terms of the accounting and the behavioural forces that are key to the accumulation of physical and human capital and technological innovation. The accounting forces are linked into the age compositional change of the population. These involve both the increase in the potential labour force as young youth cohorts reach working age, and also the tendency for saving rates to be relatively high during these working age years. The behavioural forces are related to the demographic changes in both fertility and mortality. And these comprise a rise in women's participation in the workforce as their rates of childbearing fall, and the reallocation of both individual and societal resources away from investing in children to investing in physical capital, job training, and technological progress. The reduction in mortality produces an incentive to increase savings as individuals need to save longer for the longer periods of retirement, which will arise as they live longer. The question is how governments can ensure that youth bulges contribute to the demographic dividend and not to civil unrest. While a large number of young people can lead to a drive in productivity, if the economic structures and institutions are in place, if population growth exceeds economic growth or occurs at a time when countries are still in the early stages of economic development, such demographic bulges can lead to high youth unemployment and poverty. And in addition, fast population growth, poverty and unemployment, especially among young men, can lead to civil conflict. Economic growth, such as that experienced in East Asia, however, is not necessarily an outcome of increases in the working age population. The economic, governance and institutional context needs to be advantageous as well. Good economic management with efficient financial and labour markets, supported through strong governance and institutional structures, and a population which is benefiting from investment in health and education are important to enable the demographic dividend and prevent the high levels of unemployment and potential civil unrest that a youth bulge may bring.